And we're live right now. Let's go, everyone. Yeah.
Hey,
Happy Friday night, everyone. Oh,
Labor Day?
it's
Howdy,
it
guys.
should
it's
be
April
Labor
Fool's
Day.
Day.
It's April Fool's Day.
But labor news happened today.
Yes, a lot.
Yes.
It really should be a Labor Day. They should just switch Labor Day to April Fools.
And it's not April Fools, y'all. This is real. The first Amazon warehouse has unionized.
Woo! Drink to that.
Alhamdulillah. Woo!
Hell yeah.
Oh, man.
How crazy is this? I mean, it's insane. Like we have what was it, 2 months ago we had the first Starbucks in New York, in Buffalo, and now we have the first Amazon unionizing in the United States and possibly the world, I think. So
It's in the world.
It's
in the world. So that
is
is
really in the world.
I believe so. Let me double check real quick.
Let's double
Don't-
check that
don't-
because there
don't let
are
me start it
some
off.
countries that Amazon is in that have really high union rates. So I would be honestly a little surprised about that. But
if
if
not,
that's the
that is
case,
amazing. Even more historic.
yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think too, just with like all the negativity and all the like just stuff that's chaos that's going on in this country and the world, like it's so good to just sort of have a day where you can be like, wow, there was a lot of good positive steps that happened this day, and
It
be
really
able
did.
to capitalize on it and just kind of go forward from there. So yeah.
Okay, so what I am reading, in Europe, there has been efforts to unionize, but it's been very difficult.
Okay.
So, and even outside of the U.S., in places where there would be high union rates, it is low.
Wow.
It is
Okay.
low. It is. This is according to CNBC.
Wow.
So this really is.
So this is
yeah.
not a thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
but they also have more protections than we do.
Yeah.
So they may not feel the need to unionize, but Amazon has
That's true.
cracked down on unions worldwide. Like some places have been successful, but largely speaking,
So I guess that is something to, like I think to kind of acknowledge and talk about, where it's like just because they don't have unions, it doesn't mean that those countries within themselves have more labor protections worked within policy and law,
Mhm.
right? Which is what America doesn't have, which is probably what leads Amazon to having such miserable conditions in the first place here.
Like it sucks here. It sucks there, but it is a
Yeah.
literal sweatshop here.
I mean,
Right.
and one of the things to mention is that in a lot of these areas, Amazon, because since they raised the wage to $15 an hour, is often one of the best jobs that you can find, and they're always hiring. So
That's true.
it
However,
is difficult. There's not a lot of options for people out there, so you can't just say don't get an Amazon job. If that's the best paying job out there, you don't really have a choice in the matter.
but I would like to go off of that whole $15 minimum wage thing, because I think it's been found that like 60% of the people that actually like do work for Amazon are like contracting workers. You can look up
Yes.
60%, but a lot of them are, and the $15 minimum wage does not apply to them. So even though Amazon might say that they have a $15 minimum wage for their workers, that you have to actually look at the fine print of what defines an Amazon worker versus somebody who does shit for them, but is
Mhm.
not actually a worker. Yeah.
Right. So even that $15 an hour that they're pushing so hard, saying this is a proof of them doing better, is a bunch of crap.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
they've also have limited bathroom breaks. They work people extremely hard, and they've been found not to have protections on people who are pregnant, making sure they're not lifting as heavy things. Oh yeah, people have been sprayed by bear repellent because robots have punctured bear. So it is not a great place to be in.
I forgot about that. That was crazy. I forgot about the bear mace. Bear mace happened. That people got bear maced at Amazon because of a robot.
Do you remember the story a few years ago about the woman who died of heat exhaustion, apparently? And she was refused to allowed to stop
There's no
when she said she wasn't
control.
feeling well, and then they made people like work around her.
Yeah, run her body. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I'm not saying the unit's going to fix everything overnight, but it should help.
That should, yeah. There's nowhere to go but up from that kind of thing. Like that. That's some bullshit. Like, and the thing is, like, not only that, they have things outside of the job where they have people. They have the modern day Pinkertons, and in the Staten Island case, they had the New York Police Department, so they were able to pay off the police to come in and union bust essentially, and it's been a wild ride for them. They've gone through a lot of stuff, and they were talking about the fact, I don't know if it's one of the videos we're going to be watching, but Chris Smalls was talking about the fact that Chris Smalls, the president, he was talking about the fact that they were able to meet at bus stops, meet after hours in people's apartments. They were organizing hardcore, and it paid off.
Yeah, and that's incredibly important. And another thing that I find interesting, because we've seen another unionization cases, like with Kellogg's out west in Nebraska, wasn't it? Like where they the staff in the warehouse went on strike, as well they should, and then the people in the office attempted to do their job and like broke everything. Am I wrong about that?
I think that was John Deere.
Yes. That was John Deere. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, not Kellogg's. Yes. John Deere. My mistake.
There's been a lot of labor. There's been a lot of labor uprisings happening recently. So
I got a question for y'all. Why do you think it is that? Because we've had, we had Occupy Wall Street, we had union pushes during the 90s. Why are we successful now? Do you think a lot of it's due to the pandemic? Like, what's happening?
I think the desperation's gotten higher, and it's starting to hit people who weren't hit initially in those times when they thought that they were good. Now, those kind of people are starting to have to take on second jobs. They're starting to see that they're losing a lot of value in their money, seeing a lot of value lost in where they're living. Some of them are just renting, and renting prices are starting to skyrocket. It's starting to affect like just normal life for everybody. It's not something that's just like isolated to certain sections. I think it's starting to just be like, and a lot of people are starting to breed a lot of class out there, I think.
And I think, I think with COVID too, COVID really gave people a lot more of time. It was very stressful time, and it still is a stressful time. It's giving people a lot of time to think, right? And when people have a lot of time to think, they have time to think about when they're being gaslit, right? And I think one of the things that I've really seen is that all across the board, people's interests have really changed, where they've really reevaluated and been like, you know what, like, I don't know if this is something that I really want to be a part of anymore in terms of like being susceptible to this type of shit, right? Like people are starting to kind of slowly realize their value and realize the amount that they're being exploited through COVID, and just seeing the ridiculousness of how all of it has gone through.
So I think that started in the offices, and then it started seeping. It started seeping into other areas of work, and I think now we're starting to see it everywhere in like retail and stuff like that. But like originally, it started in offices, and people were like, "Oh, we're gonna go remote," and then they found that out, and they were like, "Why would I ever want to go back to the office?" Like, no.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's wild because when I first became remote, like I was thinking like, oh wow, like how, and then I was like, after a while I was like, this is kind of cool, like I can do shit on the side, like I can I just have so much more time to exist.
Exactly. I can go like walk to lunch, I can walk to a refrigerator opposed to like having something in a break room or like having to drive somewhere.
So like I was unemployed for a while, and it was really desperate. I ended up getting hired at a restaurant, and then got fired within like the first 2 weeks because, as you know, I do have a serious disability, and in order to not get hired, I wouldn't wear my cane. I would just wear braces underneath my pants to try to, mitigate that. But I would cover the braces up so that people wouldn't know, because I noticed that when people saw the braces or when they saw my cane, I didn't get a call back. So
that's so terrible.
Yeah. So I got fired because I I injured my knee because I was trying to lift something that was way too heavy, and then I finally got this job where I was able to go remote, which was good. Uh, and it made me realize a couple things. One, we don't. It is so much better not having to drive. It's a lot better for the environment. It helps a lot significantly. And two, you become a lot more aware because due to being immunocompromised, you're finally able to get it. They finally have grocery delivery systems where you have groceries delivered out. You know the person, and especially with my brother working, doing delivery and stuff for a restaurant, you even though you're not in that situation, you're more keenly aware because you're more directly exposed to it. Because it's not just like the Amazon package and you come home at the end of the day and you see the package. You're actually seeing the person at the door. You're seeing all the things and everything. So I think that even outside the warehouses, there's a greater class consciousness and they're starting to get a lot more solidarity because you're more directly exposed to people who are working in conditions like that.
I agree with that, and I feel like a lot of we've seen a lot of tightening grip in a lot of companies and a lot of places because they're losing a lot of people. So there's been a lot more like tightening up and within the companies, and I think that's been people already had limited freedom within being an employee in the first place. So if you see that grip tightening. I think that's going to make people be like, oh, hell no. It's like working people spend most of their time at work more than they do even at their own home. So it's almost like their second home. So if you're not getting treated right at the other place you're basically living at, why would you even want to be there?
Exactly. And like, my spouse works for a restaurant, a popular chain restaurant, fast food restaurant that y'all know of. And one of the things that you've noticed is that people have fallen more into two categories: either the people who don't seem to care about humanity at all, but there's a larger category of people who are they're awakening up to the fact, which is an improvement. And I think that's something that we definitely need to do. And by pushing and talking about unionization, warehouses are like where it all begins. If we can get warehouses unionized, it becomes easier to get offices unionized and so on and so forth. And we keep pushing this unionization process across the world through rural and city areas, it would help everybody in the long run.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they're not covering it in the media.
And you know what? I think that really, just real quick, Z, sorry.
I just want to say one thing.
Okay, cool. I'll say something. Yeah.
The only thing I want to say really fast was the fact that, and in America, the only thing that has been unionized up until this Starbucks and this Amazon are police unions. Mm-hmm. So we need to be understanding who understand like what kind of power a union does have. That's one of the things that protects police, especially in the North. Like so much in the South, they're hired on by companies on a company basis. But as far as police forces in the North, a lot of them are under police unions, and so they understand the power of a union as well.
Yeah, don't y'all have police unions in South Carolina?
No, we don't have police unions in South Carolina. They're mostly owned by different companies or however they finance it, but I'm not sure. As far as the unions, as far as unions, we don't have police unions here. A lot of people think unions still a dirty word here. However, like we said, that's changing. Like a lot of people are starting to understand that what unions are, but a lot of people here still have been trained to see that the right to work laws that were passed, and there's some in. Well, I guess the South would extend to places like I would still call Arizona, so like the South, it's like the New South in essence, like that kind of western part, like Texas and as well in Arizona. Don't you have right to work in your state, Novi?
We do have right to work, but we also it's interesting. I'd like the eastern South portion. We have unions here. We have the teachers union, and we have the police union.
No, we have no unions anywhere here. So it's just if a union sparks up here, that'll actually cause a big wave, just like Alabama. Same thing. It would spark a ridiculous wave. That's why they tried to stamp that one out so hard too.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, you were going to show something.
Yeah. So I'm showing this, but I think just one of the things I just wanted to say real quick before we start to talk about Amazon in Staten Island is that, I think we can all become sometimes disillusioned because we see like, oh, these people are feeding into the propaganda when it comes to, Joe, like just being like, oh, Joe Biden, good, Trump bad, right? And I think at the same time, it's frustrating. And then when you talk about sort of the dynamics in the workplace and how disconnected the top is always from what's happening on the ground and the people that are actually doing the work, that's when you can actually find the most commonality amongst people, right? So even if maybe when it comes to their sort of takes on certain politicians, they might be a little propagandized, but people see the shit that's going down when it comes to this sort of like capitalistic system without even realizing it at times. And I think that just kind of went transitioning into Amazon. I think that's just something to always keep in mind, right? Like a lot of people voted to unionize. And I'm sure a lot of them, if you ask them a take on a certain politician and stuff, you would be like, what the hell, you're propaganda, right? But they were able to very much recognize their rights and when they were being exploited here.
Exactly.
And I think that's a place really that's worth starting, right? And that's why I think sometimes it's worth taking the politics, big P politics out of it and just talking about actual like dynamics and power dynamics. And you can get so far with that.
Definitely. Also, right quick, long-haul truckers can't unionize because of the National Labor Relations Board. Yeah, they tried to unionize back in the 90s, if I remember correctly, and the response, no, they tried to unionize it twice, in the 90s and in the 40s, and in both times the response was to federalize them. So now they can't. Now it's beside the law that it's illegal for them to unionize. So, and they are the backbone of this economy more than small business workers, more than anybody else. If long haul truckers aren't able to do stuff, we don't get anything in on time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we can convince people that where their interests lie, their actual interests lie, we can make people do a lot of, because people are already obsessed with working themselves here. All I have to do is put it towards the right thing, and everything else will follow.
Absolutely.
But Andrew, go ahead. We gotta.
Yeah. So Amazon workers vote to unionize Staten Island warehouse. Can I get a clink? Yeah. So it will be the clink. It will be the first union ever formed at an Amazon warehouse. So workers at an Amazon warehouse in NYC have voted to unionize. An historic vote for workers at the e-commerce company. The final tally was 2654 yes votes and 2131 with 67 challenges. The workers at the JFK 8 Fulfillment Center in Staten Island will join the Amazon Labor Union as the number of challenges is not sufficient to affect the outcome. All right. The NLRB determined in January, so this is a little background, that unionization efforts at the facility had reached a sufficient showing of interest to hold an election. The facility employs roughly 5,000 people. That's 5,000 people that just got unionized, everyone. Like that's significant, In a statement posted to its website Friday, Amazon said it was disappointed with the outcome of the election because we believe having direct relationship with the companies, but that's the number one talking point they always use. What direct? Like half the people, like I will say 90% of the fucking people who are like saying that shit probably have people who answer emails for them that are probably tell them, hey, you have this email, but then they don't do anything about it. So direct my ass. The company is evaluating its options, the Post says, including filing objections based on the inappropriate and undue influence by the NLRB that it claims it witnessed. The Post didn't specify what influence it was referring to. So the ALU, which I think that's important, I think we were talking about it, it's important to highlight the fact that ALU, this is the union that they sort of made themselves. They didn't go off of like a well-established union, and they won anyway. They've been trying to unionize Amazon workers in New York for nearly 2 years. In October 2021, it filed with the NLRB to hold a union election for 2 Amazon facilities on Staten Island, but later withdrew the request because it didn't have enough signatures. The union refiled in December, focusing on just the JFK 8 warehouse, which was the site of several worker protests and walkouts during the height of COVID-19. So, and this is interesting to say, unlike the Bessemer unionization effort, the ALU is not affiliated with a national union or larger organization. What I was just saying before, it is a personal project of Christian Smalls, right? Which we're going to show. We're going to show a little speech of his in a little bit, who was fired from Staten Island site after organizing a walkout. Think twice before you fire the next person, Amazon. After Friday's tally was announced, Small told reporter he wanted to thank former Amazon CEO Bezos because while he's up in space, we were signing people up. Go to space more, Bezos. The JFKH election is the first to approve a union for Amazon warehouse workers in the U.S. and, as Novi was saying, in the world?
It's one of the first in the world.
One of the first in the world. Following another union drive at Amazon's BHM1 facility in Bessemer, Alabama, the NLRB ordered a redo of an election held last year after it determined that Amazon had interfered with the first election. On Thursday, the votes in Bessemer appeared to go against the union, with 933 against and 875 in favor. But since the final vote is so close, there will be a hearing on 416 changing ballots. The hearing is expected to be scheduled in the next few weeks, and both the union and Amazon will have the opportunity to file any objections to the election over the coming months. Okay.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited.
That's so funny. He's just like, while you were up in space, I was getting work done.
Yeah, basically. You're gonna think twice before you leave this earth next time, Mr. Bezos. Like,
oh my gosh. Oh, that is so great. So Bessemer, one of the things that's really interesting about it is that it's an industrial town about 20 miles outside of Birmingham, Alabama. And it's quite similar to the town in which I grew up in. It's the same population, both industrial towns, very high income disparity, and it is too close to call. So if a southern town gets unionized, even if they don't do it this time, if they do it the next time, do you know what a big effing deal that is?
I mean,
big as F.
As the one non-Southerner on this stream, I'll let you two talk about.
No, that'll be huge. I mean, just seeing from what Bessemer, they said that Bessemer was one of the reasons that they saw that they could actually do it as well, and in Staten Island. So that ripple effect will cause a ripple effect, just like the fact that the Starbucks in Buffalo unionizing and start a ripple effect across the nation. We've seen all these Starbucks from all over the nation, even in my city, start to attempt to unionize. So this is just going to be one of many Amazon warehouses who think that they have the green light now. So
in my city that I'm currently in, they're working on unionizing the university and the teachers union. And one of the cool things about the university is that they're doing it everybody from contract workers, janitors, and cafeteria workers, all the way up to adjuncts and full and tenured professors.
Hell yeah.
That is pretty good. I mean, we have such a push toward unionization. And that is one of the big things, because when you can collectively bargain, you can get more rights, you can get more pay, and you get a better working condition. And then that is one of the big steps toward having an equitable society.
Exactly. And then we'll push for board, and then we'll push for public board membership.
Yes.
So we start owning this company. And then we'll push for nationalization. So it is the people's.
We'll just keep.
But we gotta go once. We go one step at a time, though. But that's just to let everyone out there know that's the plan.
Yeah, seize the means of production, y'all.
And this is the shit we talked about the whole we didn't talk about it really much, but Will Smith and Chris Rock, going at this is the stuff right here to really focus on, right? Because
Yeah.
this is the stuff that's really going to more directly affect your quality of life, right? Than a celebrity slapping a celebrity.
And for the record, y'all, I know there's a big concern like unions are a dirty word here in the South, and that, if unions, prices will go up and quality will go down. That's a little bit more complicated because if the warehouse unionizes, it becomes easier for the teachers to unionize. It becomes easier for the restaurant workers to unionize. That way we all get paid more and we all get treated better. So yes, prices may go up, but so will your paycheck.
Exactly. It won't affect you. It'll affect you positively. And I think that hopefully more like this happens. And I think it's really cool that it started from someone who was unemployed. Smalls is he's President Chris Smalls of the Amazon Labor Union is really awesome. He's been unemployed since last year when they fired him for pretty much no reason. And apparently the way they do it is they give you an app and it just fires you. You don't even get fired in like face to face. Someone just emails you. You didn't even get an email. You just get an app. You're playing a game, and the end of the game or some shit like that would be, you're fired. And it's what the
Austin, I'm a Tigers fan, but in this case for the Alabama Union in Bessemer, roll Tide.
Rolled, yeah. All I'm gonna say is that flashback to 2020, right before the pandemic, when we were on Team Bernie, we were in a different headspace a little bit. We were on Team Bernie. We want him to win, right? The excitement I felt watching Chris Smalls speak when he did, I got to catch him live, was the excitement I was craving to see if Bernie had won at that time. This was just yes, victory, stick it to oligarchy, fuck you. And so
and this proves something really important. You don't have to be a politician, you don't have to be a millionaire or anything in order to make a difference. Anybody can. And look at what this means. This is a big effing deal, and it was the work of a collection of people, not just Chris Walls, but it was started off by somebody who was unemployed, who didn't come from a wealthy background, and still was able to work with his fellow workers to outwit one of the largest corporations on earth to become unionized and to get their rights. That is I am so happy about it.
So shall we listen to his speech?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Man, I ain't gonna cry right now, but damn, 2 years ago, my life changed forever. I only wanted to do the right thing and speak up for the workers behind me. Jason was one of them, Derek, Jordan, Gerald, everybody, and JFK. When COVID-19 came to play, Amazon failed us. They dropped the ball. They lied to the public saying they're doing all these things. None of that was the reality of our situation. So I let a walkout after they quarantined just me and nobody else. And that walkout led to my firing. Then a week after that, a couple weeks after that, maybe a week or two, that memo that came out calling me not smart or articulate. Ironically, they also said to make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts, which I had no intention at the time. And when I read that memo, that motivated me to start an organization called the Congress of Essential Workers, TCOEW. My brothers right here, Derek Palmer, Gerald Bryson, Jordan Flowers. We traveled the country. We picked up some comrades along the way. We protested in front of every Jeff Bezos mansion and penthouse that we can find on Google. And it led us to 11 months ago. After we went down to Alabama last year when they had their first campaign, and we saw some things that we thought that we could do better independently. So that's what we decided to do. We decided to come back home to Staten Island and start unionizing JFK8. And not just JFK8, we wanted all 4 of them. They built up 4 buildings in 2 years. So we said, you know what? This is our complex now. We tried to do 4 buildings. The first petition didn't go our way because Amazon fired 1,000 people in 6 months. Wasn't because we didn't sign up 2,000-3,000 people. We did that. But unfortunately, by the time we filed the petition and the process took a while, Amazon got rid of 1,000 people, whether they quit or they got fired. I'm blaming Amazon because they have a system that get rid of people anyway. So that's what happened. Yeah, that too. They gave us a faulty payroll, but it didn't matter. We were able to file right back in 6 weeks. And we got to an election with JFK by itself. And not only JFK, LDJ5 is next. It has an election coming up in April, which no doubt in my mind we're going to be successful in that one as well. Because once again, I spent the last 11 months. The folks behind me spent the last 11 months as well, inside, outside the building, at the bus stop, earning the trust of these workers, building relationships, raising money, creating GoFundMes for people that was fired, people that was homeless, people living in shelters, paying bills, cable bills, phone bills, feeding them. We had over 20-something barbecues. Sometimes they cooked, Derek cooked. We all contributed, giving out books, literature, giving out free weed because it's legal. And we did that. Yes, we did. We did whatever it took to connect with those workers, to make their daily lives just a little bit easier, a little bit less stressful. We were that light at the end of the tunnel when they got off that S40 and that S90. When they got up, they saw us right there at that bus stop, having a bonfire, lighting up s'mores, whatever it took. We were right there for them every day, and I think that resonated with the workers, something that no established union could do, because we are Amazon workers. Whether we former or current, we know the ins and outs of the company. We know these grievances better than anybody. We live this reality every single day. I lived it for 5 years. They're still living it. They're all current workers, except for a select few. And, you know, this is what it's about. We took care of one another. I took care of my employees when I was employed with this company. I opened up 3 buildings in the tri-state. I trained thousands of their employees. I trained hundreds of their upper management. The general manager now of JFK, they know me very well. We have a long history. My roots with the company is very deep. And I wrote that in a letter last week that was opened over 5,000 times. 5,000 workers opened that letter that I wrote. So that right there also helped the undecided people make a relationship and a connection with myself. You know, it's not about me. Amazon tried to make it about me from day one. And I never said it was going to be Amazon versus Chris Smalls. It's always going to be Amazon versus the people. And today the people have spoken, and the people wanted a union.
Hey, Chris.
So,
how do you feel right now? Chris?
Yeah.
What message does this give to Amazon and any other unionizing efforts that might now be launched?
Well, I can tell you now, we got the juggler. We went for the juggler. And we went for the top dog because we want every other industry, every other business to know that things have changed. We going to unionize. We're not going to quit our jobs anymore. And you know, this is a prime example of what the power that people have when they come together.
Chris, what's your message to Amazon executives today after this victory?
Oh, they're going to have to negotiate with their workers now. You know, my message is that now we have a union that they're going to have to collective bargain with.
And what's the first demand that your union is going to make?
Whatever we decide, you know, I'll go with whatever.
Well, I mean, what's your top priority?
But my top priority is whatever they is. You know, it's a democratic process. You know, I don't make any decision by myself. I know people do that, but I don't do that. They know me better than anybody else. I don't care about what everybody write, what everybody tweet on social media is all bull. My people that have been with me from day one know exactly what type of person I am. I'm unemployed. I haven't been employed since I've been fired. Every single day I get up and I organize. That's all I do. Day in, day out, that's my lifestyle.
And your work isn't done because you've got another vote. So how
Yeah.
are you going to approach that upcoming vote now? Because the company will likely try and pull out maybe bigger guns.
What can they do? They already got me arrested. What more can they do? What more can they possibly do? You know, so I don't care what they do. It doesn't matter to us. You know, doesn't matter to us.
What's your message to other Amazon workers?
Unionize.
Yeah.
Reach out to us. We'll help you. We'll help you. We'll reach out. Y'all know how to reach out to me. I'm very accessible. I got the same number I have for the last 10 years.
What about other organizers in other places?
Chris, the effort in Bessemer, Mississippi failed. What is special about Staten Island? What's special about JFK?
It's Bessemer, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know why they weren't successful. If they are going to be the challenges or whatever, I don't know everything that's going on. But I do know this: New York is a union town. I do know that every worker knows somebody that's in the union, related to somebody that's in the union. They're in close range of somebody that's in the union. The bus drivers, they get off the bus every day. They speak to union members. Alabama's a little different. Alabama's still fairly new. Gotcha. I'm sorry. The Alabama, Bessemer, that building been around for less than 2 years. So it's kind of like, you know, you get a new job, you walk in there, and then you're talking about a union. It's harder to influence your coworkers like that. JFK been around 4 years. The organizers I organized with, like, for example, Derek Palmer, our vice president, he's been an Amazon worker for 6 years. He knows people. Gerald Bryson been there. He's from Staten Island. He's been there 3 years since the building opened, before they fired him wrongfully. Myself, I opened up that building. You know, I trained these people. So it's just a different relationship that we have, a bigger influence that we have on our coworkers. And, you know, once again, we're going to support any efforts against Amazon, no matter what union is organizing. We're here to lend our advice, lend our support. All you got to do is bring us in. You know, we tried to help them. It didn't work out the first time around. I hope that everybody's paying attention now, because a lot of people doubted us, and they know who they are. They didn't support us for 11 months. Everybody knows that. You know, we raised money through GoFundMe. We raised pennies. We had like $3 in our account just 3 weeks ago. So that just tells you how grassroots this campaign is. We had nothing. We started off with 2 tables, 2 chairs, and a tent. Yep. And that's it. No major support, no major resources, nothing. Not even a union hall. We were meeting up at inside of an apartment. We were meeting up at the bus stop. We were meeting up on Zoom just to make it past to the next week. And, you know, I wouldn't change it for anything. You know, the way we did it, the struggles, the ups and downs, the grind, the losses, the setbacks, it made us stronger. And that's what got us here to this day.
Hey, Chris.
Can I say that? Okay, so this is also another thing. Like, they wanted to make him the face because he looked like he was just a dumb black guy to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very awesome that the fact that the way he dresses like a conventional, you know, New Yorker. And the thing is, it's funny because they wanted it to be, people think like, oh, this guy's not going to do anything. But I think it's really cool. Oh, what's going on there? Okay. But I think it's really cool that he kept pursuing it, and he's very intelligent. And it's funny, it's funny that like you wouldn't usually see you usually wouldn't see that type of person. But since the people put him as president and made him the face, he was the choice because they knew him. They weren't just judging him by looks, and that's awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, I think it's also important to mention too that yes, New York City is a liberal, and as he said, it's a union city, right? And it's more liberal. Staten Island is the most conservative borough, in fact, like, I don't know if this is true, but like Trump got the most votes in Staten Island. If not, he got the majority, right? So, not saying that like necessarily these workers live in Staten Island, but I think it's also just does justice to recognize, like, yes, people would say New York City, of course, it'd be a union. Also, Staten Island is the most conservative borough in New York City.
And unions
it's a Republican safe space.
Yeah, and even for Democrats, I mean, even as much lip service as they give to unions, it's still inconvenient for them in their capital as well. So,
for sure.
Yeah, so either way, yeah, it's like even if they're just like Republicans just like railing against unions, Democrats are in the background supporting that railing, and they're just going to act like it's not the same when they get in front of people. So.
And I think I just can imagine that there was, it was an interesting coalition that probably was painful at times, and they made it work. And this is what happened. So, yeah.
And we weren't going to mention politicians or anything that fast, but I wanted to, if anyone saw that Twitter exchange yesterday and today's exchange, today's like posting from Bernie Sanders, I think it is funny that they stayed away from it because they thought it wouldn't do anything, and they want to be the face. They want to be the face, not like they did anything. But I think it's funny that you see both these politicians how much they've quelled to the Democratic establishment, because a couple of years ago, Bernie Sanders was one of the reasons that Amazon raised their minimum wage to $15 in the first place, because he was railing against them. And then AOC was the reason that there wasn't an Amazon warehouse in the middle of New York City. And when she was railing against them, they decided, because New York was going to pay Amazon as most companies get subsidies to move in from the government. But in that case, she railed against it, and she got them they came anyways, but New York didn't have to spend any money for it. So it just shows you how far, even though this was just a couple of years ago, it shows you how far we've come from like being like, hey, like the left wing of the Democratic Party to like, they ain't shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember like calling for people who were part of the progressive squad, the Wolfpack thing that TYT had started, and it's hard to believe that was only like 4 or 5 years ago, because it feels like forever. But there has been awakening, not just during the Trump presidency, but especially during the pandemic, where, when you see the whole world go to shit and the people who are supposedly supposed to be representing to you not helping, yeah, fuck that.
There's really not much to say about that. It's like, if you see, like, it's like you're just saying that you're not, like, I'm watching your actions, you're doing the same thing as these people whose actions literally align with their words. They might be terrible words and terrible actions,
right?
But at least they respect me enough to be like, I hate you, and like stab me in the front and not the back.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason why I kind of respect Republicans more, not in the sense that I actually trust them, but in the sense of, like, at least they're honest.
Yeah, they literally let you know what's going on, and it's
like, and they're like, oh, what do you have to wear that all the time when you're working, or say all sorts of things that go like, okay, yeah, you're racist, cool. Instead of being trotted out in your supposedly liberal workplace and going, oh, here's our token of jobby, and and that's just like across the board, like. I'd rather you be honest if you don't like me.
That feels like that would be more offensive. It
is more offensive.
So that happens in so many like liberal circles where you're just like a conservative will come up to you, and not saying this is ever conservative, they'll be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. They'll say something that might be just a little bit brash, and you can be like, talk to them and like sometimes, and they'll be like, no, well, I don't like, and they'll be like, all right, whatever. But then you have like just this egregious, like, I don't even know, like you just said, like, here's our token, blah, blah, blah. You're just like, how is that not? That's wild. That's wild to me.
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the reasons they stayed away from the Staten Island thing too.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. And I definitely think that's the reason why they attacked with Smalls. I definitely think that. And Amazon's just been trying to rebrand themselves as this liberal woke workplace, with the ads, with the green energy, with like electric vehicles, all that stuff. And it's just full of crap. Absolute crap.
I want to point out with Chris Smalls though, and I would love for him to come on the show. If you're watching, which I hope you are, we would love you to come on and we interview you. But I love the way that the organizing went from, he said that they would like have like bonfires, pretty much a lot of the stuff that Jobs do, but that Jobs are doing that to make you like closer to them. But they were doing it to make it closer to the union, because the Jobs use the same tactics that you would use anyways. Like they're not using anything that they're just using against you. So why not have a workers' pizza party after work and discuss how shitty the workplace is? Then we can own it, but then we can have as much pizza we want, not just like 2 slices.
Yeah, I remember my job was talking about as a bonding opportunity going to a UFC fight.
That would be awesome that would be awesome though.
That would be great as a recruiting opportunity for a union. Not gonna lie.
And I wouldn't want to. Yeah, in like knowing sometimes like how you have to like not be fully yourself in a job. I'm sure like if you had a union, I'm sure it'd be a lot like less pressure on you to be like, especially if everyone voted, especially if you were part of founding the union. I feel like unions that have been around right now have been around for how long? They've been around for a long ass time. So a lot of them have just fallen out and become and coalesced to the establishment and aren't really a threat anymore. But these new unions with these new younger faces and people who've never been acclimated to the system or paid under the table, I feel like that's going to pose a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. You first.
I was just going to say it. Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like it was kind of a double anti-establishment of whammy, because not only were they the first union in this country to form against Amazon, but they did not go with an established union. They went with a brand new union, which, like you said, Z, is not coalesced with the, because I think a lot of rightfully so criticisms that unions get is that they are too much in bed with the Democratic Party. So they are the union leadership is too much in bed with the politicians. This here is brand new. So the likelihood is far less that shit will happen.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing him just talk about the fact that the movement is all of them and not just him being the president of the face. I think that's very awesome.
I
hope to see more of that.
I do want to say that it's very good that they have a democratic process and everything going on, because I definitely see a possibility of there being like a Jimmy Hoffa scenario. Not like Chris Smalls will become Jimmy Hoffa, but more like like corporations will trade him as Jimmy Hoffa.
I fear for him. You get what I mean? I'm scared for him.
I know. I'm legitimately scared. Yeah.
That it's scary. He just made history, and he's helping the biggest company in the from the richest man, one of the richest people in history, go against their company. And I know Jeff Bezos is not part of Amazon anymore, but he's still part of Amazon. Come on. And it's just I fear for him. I hope everything goes well and he's able to keep organizing and helping people across the nation get their Amazons up.
No, for
sure.
It's
not. I'm not saying it's just Chris is the face of the movement, but please be safe.
Yeah, exactly.
We need you.
Yeah, exactly. And he's really inspiring. I mean, that's really cool. That makes me want to go do that. I'm just gonna go. Especially if the Amazon workers around here are okay.
Hell yeah.
I mean, no. I mean, it's just people are at that point we were talking about. People are just trying to take a job just to get fed, not because they're liking it. It's out of desperation, and we shouldn't be choosing jobs because we're desperate. We should be choosing things because they work for us and may help better situations.
For sure.
So
I definitely want to help with the unionization push in my hometown, because that's incredibly important, especially since with the biggest employers. If we could do that, that would be a big deal.
I think that's another thing too. Yeah. I think the fact, I know we've mentioned it, but just the fact, like you said, 5,000 people, Andrew, and the fact that it's Amazon, the biggest. It is the biggest employer in the United States. That is huge. Like,
Yeah, it's I think
we
number
can't
two.
underscore that enough.
I think Walmart's 1 and Amazon's number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Walmart unit in the works somewhere. Like,
that might be the next step.
because
honestly.
they have them living on food. They have a lot of them living on food stamps, and just it's just
in the Walmart training, they actually talk about getting on food stamps, and they guide you through the process of it.
Yeah.
That's next level heinous.
yeah, for sure. So I want to just quickly let's lay out sort of, because I think already, and as they on that status quo video, they mentioned that they had released 8 immediate changes from Amazon that they're going to immediately push for once they get unionized. And I believe there's like 16 that they have, but only 8 they've released so far. The other 8 might be in the works, but these are just sort of the first 8 that have been released. So number 1, health and safety. Amazon should immediately provide associates who are injured at work with paid time off for the remainder of the day. Amazon forces associates to use their own PTO or UPT when they get injured, or refer them to workers' compensation, which is bureaucratic and confusing. Instead, Amazon should send workers home with pay so that they can properly heal. Amazon should give a 7.5% inflation adjustment for all tier 1 to 3 associates. We need an immediate wage raise to meet our expenses amid the rising cost of living, right? And that always just amuses me when people are like, okay, we'll give you like a 4% raise. It's like, okay, oh, that's very kind of you. I'm still severely underpaid because I was making more when I started till now, because you're going to have to give me 7.5% in order for me to be making the same thing I was making for you back like 1.5 years ago too. Promotions. Amazon should expand tier 2 to include all critical roles, all PGs, acting PAs, water spiders, problem solvers, learning ambassadors. M&C robotics positions should be classified as tier 2 and receive a $1.75 hour raise to account for the extra work, training, and skill required to perform those roles. Overtime. Amazon should end the overtime cap on part-time and flex associates. Amazon recently capped part-time and flex associate at 42 hours with no notice. We are calling them to reverse this policy immediately. Okay. Amazon should reinstate 20-minute breaks.
Wait. Part-time was 42 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's above full-time.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and here's another one. While we're going to be just like, working conditions, Amazon should reinstate 20-minute breaks. Like, I'm sorry, like that is a stretch from what you were getting. Like, excuse me, like breaks usually at Adobe, like we were talking about before this, like it's not uncommon for breaks to be like 30 hours to an hour, like your lunch break. So that to me, I'm just like,
and not to mention they talk about the fact that they have to walk across a giant ass warehouse to fucking get where they need to go.
Right. Like, and so that's the thing. It's not me being like the fact that they have to push the envelope by making this recommendation just shows the exceptionally oppressive conditions that Amazon has. Like, and then number 6, transportation. Amazon should run a direct shuttle between the St. George Ferry Terminal and Matrix Park. The overcrowding on an S40 and S90 is dangerous and unstable. We don't need more public buses. We need a private shuttle service for Amazon workers immediately. Okay.
That would be really helpful.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And then this one is what really got me. Amazon should count UPT in minutes instead of hours. So UPT. Nobi, remind me, what does UPT exactly stand for?
Oh, UPT. This is fun. So UPT is if you clock in, like, for whatever reason, UPT is the amount of time that's automatically unpaid because of that. Now, traditionally, and I'm talking about even in fast food restaurants, if you get UPT for like a few minutes, it'll go off for like 15, a quarter of an hour or half an hour. They're having it so like if you are 5 minutes late or even less, you can get cut off a full hour's worth of pay. That is severely messed up.
Yeah. And it makes sense to be like, if you're 7 minutes late to work, just take the 7 minutes of UPT, not 1 hour. Because if you're 7 minutes late, guess what? You're working 50, my math's a little off right now, but I believe 53 minutes. Yeah, 53 minutes of those hours. So you're telling me that 53 minutes you're working, you're not getting paid for? Just tell me you're an oppressor without telling me you're an oppressor. Union busting. Amazon should allow ALU representatives into their anti-union trainings to explain our side. Okay. Yeah. Amazon will not allow ALU worker organizers into their mandatory anti-union meetings. When ALU President Chris Smalls came on site to give out food and answer questions, General Manager Felipe Santos had him and 2 of our coworkers arrested by the police. Amazon must not implement any more policy changes that hurt our coworkers. Instead, we demand that management immediately implement those 8 changes. So, yeah. So let's talk about that for a little bit. What are our thoughts?
Okay, so a few of those I would love to see at my workplace, but the fact that this is pushing the envelope. Dang. Like, you know, the situation Amazon is bad. Like, everybody knows that it's bad. But you know, people might have a hard time forgetting about it because they don't see people face to face. But this should really underscore, this is what goes into getting your your next day delivery off of Amazon. This is what people are being treated like, and this is what they're being subjected to. Yeah. So it's not okay, and we should be supporting them, you know, because these are things that should just be a part of any job as the bare minimum.
Exactly. It's we have to, as you said, with the 1 day delivery and delivery, we need to understand the costs of that. Like, it's not just like magic. There's blood, quite literally blood, sweat, tears, piss, and poop.
Right.
In this situation, and you know, like I feel as though we have to understand that on Amazon. We have to understand that with globally with resources. Like we like things like aluminum and tin don't just come, and rubber don't just come out of the ground. And there are countries and being oppressed, just like there's people being oppressed in the warehouses here. It's all macro and micro, and it just goes back down to that there is no ethical consumption of the capitalism. But that doesn't mean just like you can't have a phone or anything, or you can't have you can't enjoy things or have nice things. It just means that we have to understand and be willing to fight for people who have less and are being oppressed by these systems.
And also maybe like, instead of doing next day delivery, be okay with the longer option as a bare minimum.
Especially when it's not important. Like you can hold off on that, like on like a game or something. And you know, it's like if I need my 1 day delivery in undies, I need them the next day. But if it's like a video game, then you can wait.
Yeah, and I think that's a big push, and that's something that people need to be cognizant of, because I think there's a large thing of, because I don't work there, because I don't know them, they're not like me, they're them, you know. But we're all people, we're all humanity, we're all struggling against our oppressors, you know. So we should band together, because we have a lot more common with the Amazon warehouse worker, with the person in the grocery store, with the nurse in the hospital, than we do with these millionaires.
And people need to realize that like companies are like looking at Amazon trying to figure out how to be like them. So they are a trendsetter, whether we like it or not. So
my job is the place where I'm working at, we are we're a university, but they're taking clues from Amazon. They're using the same web tools that Amazon uses. They're doing it. Andrew, I'm pretty sure you have them too. And they're calling
Yeah.
the same goals that you have to set and pushing people harder
Yeah,
and harder
yes.
and harder and harder and harder and harder.
These people who have never been on college campuses, probably since they went to college, are saying like, "This is how you should be running your thing."
Yeah, and then they
Yeah.
wonder why people keep quitting or getting fired
Yeah,
because the pace is hard to keep up. And
Exactly.
and that's still a relatively privileged job, even though it's a low income position.
and I think, yeah, and I think that's always the thing is when you read about how Amazon goes to the extent to exploit people, how it goes to surveil people, right? Like, I think a lot of people don't think about how this could potentially happen to them. Like, sure, you're in this like office cubicle, right? But who's to say they don't do those same things to you, right? Like, you really don't, let's face it, you're much closer to these workers than you are to the person exploiting you. So,
and you're
especially if you're not working at a grocery store. Like if you're working in an office, you best believe if you're signing in on their interface, then they are recording you 24/7, no matter what you're doing.
Oh yeah, and you also actually get paid less than the Amazon full-time employees.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying that they unionize in Staten Island, like
and I'm not saying they should get paid less. I'm saying we both should get paid more.
Right. Exactly. I hate when people are like this is actually starting to fade away even here, but where people are like $15 need to be working for that. Like they shouldn't be flipping burgers for $15. It's like not saying that. Maybe you should also get like everything that would be the base minimum, meaning you would get paid more money too. Like that doesn't mean everyone's getting paid $15. It means that person, and $15 is way too low now anyways. But just as that conversation, it's like maybe we all could just collectively get risen up on our standards of living.
Yes.
So
yes.
Next day delivery probably only needs to be for organs. Yeah, actually, yeah. Well,
they're having they're going to be getting a pharmacy soon, so be looking out in like next 10 years for Amazon medical hospitals.
And
Amazon apartments would be terrible.
Quick sidetrack. So you know how Amazon's getting a pharmacy? Like the owner of the Mavericks is doing their own pills thing. It's at cost for medication plus 15% margin. And it's cheaper than it's cheaper than insurance. And if you make too much for Medicaid and don't make enough for insurance, it's crazy.
Yeah.
People like even people like that, like where there's like who aren't in the people see how much of a robbery the pharmaceutical industry is. It's just a big cartel, and people are getting tired on all sides, from work to medical, home life. But
I mean, I get paid like I think $800 more than the poverty line. Yeah, and
per year for the whole year.
For the whole year, yeah. And it's
terrible.
And I'm not saying that to feel sorry for me or whatever, but
it's
our poverty line needs to be raised up because that's not a livable wage, and it's not a livable wage for anybody. And it's certainly not a livable wage for somebody who's having to walk back and forth across a warehouse that's multiple football fields big, having to do all these things, lifting things for people who probably forgot that they ordered it in the first place. They should get paid more. Honestly, I feel like they should get paid more than me. I mean, it's more strenuous.
But yeah, I'm about to have to head out, y'all.
Yeah. I mean, I think overall it's a good victory. It's a good thing to celebrate. And I think, as we've mentioned, these are happening other places as well, in places you'd least expect it. I believe Kellogg's just got serious concessions. I think 15% raises, and this is in Kansas City, right? And so these are happening in places, all throughout this country, and it's great to see. And so I think it's always something to just remember. when you feel down on certain days and that no progress is being made, right? Very valid. And in other places, things are being made, and I think it's good that we capitalize that on to figure out how we can keep going with it, right? And Chris Smalls really had the perfect idea, right? He took that firing and he was like, you know what? I'm going to make my life's work for these next couple of years and make sure that Amazon pays for what they did to me. And I don't know about you all, but I find that very inspiring. So
I do. I feel like that is more inspiring than just about anything else.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I think that was way cooler than a superhero or an action film or the infamous slap. So
absolutely,
he is who we should be talking about and celebrating today.
For sure. All right. I guess a good time to wrap it up and everything. So either of you have any of things coming up that you would like to share on here?
Professional lapses, either this weekend or early next week. As soon as we get the story done, we've been working on this huge story about how procurement of oil works in the U.S. and abroad, and why the oil companies are artificially inflating prices, and the story behind that. And we'll be covering that on Professional Lapses as soon as that's uncovered. It's a major story, so I hope y'all come and check it out.
Nice. Cool. That's gonna be awesome. I've been working on some like I said on the last thing we did. I'm working on some Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth. I'm trying to do it in a different format. So I've been writing a script. I've been working on it diligently, and hopefully that gets filmed in the next couple of days. And Sunday, April 3rd, this Sunday, we're at 4 p.m. Novi and I and Austin are going to be interviewing Eleanor Goldfield from the Common Censored podcast. And she also hosts with Lee Camp. And Lee Camp is going to be joining us again at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. And Andrew's going to be in that interview with me and Amira. So we have some big things coming out, and hopefully we'll have another panel next week. So just stay tuned, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you like what you see here, go to our Patreon and become a patron.
Right. Yes. We're getting up those levels, and Patreon, once we fund the operations to keep this thing going, we will be donating the rest of mutual aid.
Yep.
And don't forget, we got the 420 Summit coming up. So excited about that too. So,
and as soon as we know we have all the guests confirmed, we will be doing teasers and have everything else. So that's going to be real exciting, y'all.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Happy Friday. Peace.